Hey guys, it's Danny. Oh my goodness, I have such a big lisp. Okay, so I do have a video for you guys, but first and foremost, you might notice that my speech was a little off today, and well, this is because I got Invisalign. This is the second day, and the lisp is strong with this one. I'm still trying to get adjusted to it. In my mind, it sounds very, very bad, but I don't want to take them off when I film because I can actually spend from 1 to several hours, and I really want to do a good job with them. I don't want to not wear them as much as I need to. So I'm hoping it's not very bothersome. I think it's gonna get better. It's definitely better than yesterday. But yeah, if you notice something, that's what it is. I'm super excited about it. I'll talk about it more at the end of the video. Today though, we're gonna look at some orchids which are related in my collection. I don't know about you guys, but I don't necessarily actively think that some orchids are the hybrids of other orchids in my collection, but sometimes when I research them, I am reminded of that, and I can definitely see similarities between them and their parents. So I'm going to show you a few of these orchids today. I think it's super fun, especially because we do have a website, not my website, it's a website on the internet, which is very useful when you want to know about the parentage of different orchids. There are some which have like 20 parents, which of course I probably don't have all of them. I'm gonna try to keep it as simple as possible, but anyway, I think it's gonna be fun. So before we start, don't forget to give this video a like if you end up enjoying it, and if you can bear through the lisp. And why not subscribe? I will definitely have this lisp for about a year, I think. All right, so with that said, let's start. All right, first off, an orchid which I am super excited about. Ooh, I'm getting the hang of this. Yesterday, my S's were not as clear. Okay, so these two orchids are related. You guys probably already know my Perreiraara Bangkok Sunset. We saw her in bloom just last month. It is currently losing the flowers on this flower spike. Well, this is a direct parent for this beauty right here, which is the Perreiraara Epicatanthe. Alrighty, I don't know how to pronounce this. I didn't really find a lot of information on how I should pronounce it. So please do let me know in a comment below how exactly this is pronounced, because I feel like none of my attempts are good. Now, if you guys know my love for the Bangkok Sunset, you should probably guess that I am actively seeking hybrids from it. And the Epicatanthe, I believe, is quite a good one. It is becoming more and more popular. I see there are a few variants of it. I'm not entirely sure which one I have, but it is a super colorful one, which I adore. So if we look on the Blue Nanta website, we can see that the direct parents are the Bangkok Sunset and the Pine Rivers, which I don't actually have, but both of these parents are hybrids. And if we go back into their ancestors, we can see that the Rhincostylus celestis is the main parent of this hybrid. And as it just so happens, I do have the celestis, and it is the blue variety. And it's another one of my absolute favorites. And I think you can start to tell the similarities, at least when it comes to flowers. They have the exact same shape. They produce a cluster of tiny little flowers rather than those big Sanderiana-like flowers. I adore this trait in Vandas. If it were up to me and I would have unlimited space, I would have all Celestis hybrids that I can possibly get my hands on. Now, the second parent, which has quite a lot of heritage, is the Aerides Hsiang, which I also have. I have a feeling I don't actually have a very vigorous individual. It might actually have an issue. But I do believe at least part of the yellow coloring comes from the Hsiang, which is a beautiful orchid, very fragrant orchid. And looking at both the Bangkok Sunset and the newer one, I can definitely see similarities. One thing that didn't pass though is the fragrance of the Hsiang, which is super beautiful. It's very lemony or citrusy, and these guys, both of them, do not have that fragrance. The Bangkok Sunset has a sort of a floral scent, which is pretty mild. This one, not so much. It has something, but not as beautiful as the Bangkok Sunset. However, having both of them is a joy. You can see how colorful this one is, but it does have some drawbacks. It doesn't have the same fragrance. I definitely love both of them, but I would say that if you prefer more of a purple type of Bangkok Sunset, this one is for you. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm so happy to have it. Next up, here's a bit of a bigger family. This is Myrmecatavola Frances Fox, which is one of my absolute favorite orchids. And many of you have actually tagged me on Instagram with your Frances Fox. And yeah, I guess it's the season for it to bloom. Mine is blooming as well. And if you know me at all, I think you know why I absolutely love this orchid. Well, let's look at the Orchid Roots website and see what the parents are. Look at that. We have Myrmecophila tibicines, which I have, and Brassavola nodosa as the main parents. Of course, we have a few more cattleyas there. I do have the Dowiana as well, but it is a seedling, sadly, so I cannot really show you flowers. I don't actually have the nodosa, but I do have the little stars, which to me is a better version of the nodosa. It is a primary hybrid, and it looks very, very similar, so I can definitely see the resemblance. The tibicines, which is right here, is a brand new orchid for me, and I think that in that video I said it's a small Myrmecophila. It's not. I don't know why I said that. You guys corrected me, and you were right. It's not going to be small. I don't actually remember what I said, but anyway, it's gonna grow very, very tall. So the size of the Frances Fox, I do believe, comes more from the Myrmecophila side, and when it comes to the flowers, I do believe there is a mixture from multiple parents. However, the spotting on the lip, that comes from the Brassavola nodosa, which is something I talked about in the past as well. The nodosa typically has a white greenish flower. It doesn't really have spots. Well, one of the traits it passes on to its hybrids is the spotted pattern on the lip, which is very interesting, I would say. Most Brassavola hybrids with spotted lips owe the pattern to the nodosa, which is why the nodosa is used in hybridizing a lot. Other Brassavolas, they don't necessarily pass on this trait, and even though I personally feel like the Brassavola nodosa is not the best not the showiest, let's say, Brassavola, when it comes to hybridizing, it is one of the favorites because of what it passes on. So it's really interesting to know that that spotted lip, and even a few spots on the petals, they are at least partly due to one of the plainest looking of the parents. But that is not the only trait from the nodosa. In the nighttime, this orchid is fragrant as well and smells exactly like a Brassavola, which is a little soapy, a little detergenty, but in the best way possible, I feel like. And really, to me, that adds to the appeal of the Frances Fox. It is an orchid I do suggest you acquire if you find it at a reasonable price. I personally find it very rewarding, and if you guys have it already in your collections, let us know in a comment. Do you like it? Is it worth the hype that I gave it all these years? I'm really curious to know because, you know, tastes differ. So to me, this is fabulous and I feel that everybody will love it. But were you let down? Let me know in a comment. Next up, an orchid we had in bloom recently, but it's not in bloom anymore. Don't worry, I have footage. This is the Epicatanthe Hsiang Gold Coast. And I have to say, this is one of the prettiest miniature cattleya types that I have. But what do you know? Both of the parents that I have next to it are rather large, right? Well, let's just take a look on Orchid Roots. And yeah, this orchid has multiple parents. I'm only going to show you two, the Epidendrum stamfordianum and the Cattleya, or actually Guarianthe aurantiaca. There are a few other cattleyas in its parentage and also a few rapiculus lallias or former lallias. I do have the Harpophila crispata cinnabarina as well, but those have a very small percentage in its parentage. What I do have though is the Epidendrum stamfordianum, which, look at him. This is one of the oldest orchids in my collection, and you'll have to excuse Joey, she's still very cuddly today. And it's finally, after years of not treating it correctly, it's finally putting on a flower spike. But I hope you notice that the flower spike arises from the base of the orchid rather than the top of the cane. This is a specific trait for the Stamfordianum, which has not been passed on to its hybrid, to the Hsiang Gold Coast. The size hasn't been passed on either, but what I feel like has been passed on is the shape of the flowers. If you look at the picture on the Orchid Roots, you can clearly see the resemblance. I always found that the Gold Coast has a sort of epidendrum vibe to it, and it does because of the Stamfordianum. Looking at the parentage, I also feel like the spots are coming from the Stamfordianum, not the other ones, while the coloration might very well come from the Guarianthe aurantiaca, which I don't feel like I have a clean one. Mine, I'm pretty sure it's a hybrid. I'm hoping a primary hybrid, but mine looks very, very close to the Aurantiaca with a few minor differences. So I feel like if you put these two parents together, you actually have the Gold Coast. But of course, there are some Cattleyas there, some Laelias, which are orange. I'm sure they contributed as well, but it's really fun to see how these parents actually made the shape and color of the Gold Coast. Now, what about the size? Because both of the orchids I have next to it are large. Well, I feel like the size is coming from the Rupiculus Laelias, which are super tiny. I'm gonna show you a few of mine. The Gold Coast will never be super, super tall. It's not a miniature, but a medium-sized orchid. And looking at it, I feel like the flowers took more from the other parents, while the actual orchid, the vegetative parts, took more from the Laelias. So that's super interesting. Things can always happen like this. And well, the worst is when an orchid is way too tiny for its blooms, which can look pretty, but it can lead to some problems. This one though, I feel like it's perfect. I absolutely love this little family that I have here, and I cannot wait to see the Stamfordianum in bloom because I have him for the past 6 years or so. There's definitely an emotional attachment here, so I'm super happy it's going to bloom. Next up, we have some Phalaenopsis. The hybrid is the Phalaenopsis Bronze Maiden, which I discovered is not actually called Bronze Maiden, I believe. It appears it's called Shillman, although mine has the Bronze Maiden tag, and everybody has it as a Bronze Maiden. I'm not 100% sure if there is a difference or not. But let's just look on the Orchid Roots website, and we can see that this is actually a primary hybrid between the Phalaenopsis schilleriana, which I have, and the Phalaenopsis mani, which I don't have anymore, sadly. I used to have it though, so I'm gonna look for the footage. I can say there is a definite resemblance with the schilleriana from multiple points of view. First off, let's take a look at the foliage. Yes, the schilleriana is a lot more mottled, but this one is beautiful as well. It also has glossier leaves because of the mani parent. P.S. If you're a native English speaker, you will call it manii. In a Latin language, it is actually mani. And flower-wise, the resemblance is even more uncanny. Of course, there are traits from the mani, but I would say my particular one took more from the schilleriana. First of all, the color is pretty similar, although the Bronze Maiden is a little bit more peachy, I believe, and it makes sense. The combination of dark red, brown, and pink would look like this, right? But also the fragrance. It smells exactly like the schilleriana, in my opinion. Also, the way the flowers are displayed, the mani being a polychilous has short flower spikes and tiny flowers. The Bronze Maiden looks almost identical in behavior, let's say. With the schilleriana, it produces multiple flowers on a pretty long flower spike. And this year, both of these orchids, I do believe, will put on a pretty great show. Fingers crossed, I'm hoping, because the flower spikes are already pretty long. So yay, fingers crossed, because both of these orchids can actually create a multitude of flowers. So I'm hoping that will happen. So in this regard, the behavior is schilleriana 100%. The mani definitely does not create a ton of blooms. It can be sequential, but that one is a summer bloomer. This one is not. This one, I don't know, to be fully honest, I've only had it for a little over a year, and it's constantly blooming, which is not typical behavior for the schilleriana, but maybe typical for the mani since that one is a continuous grower and is a warm grower. I don't know the pattern. I can see traits from both parents, and I feel like this is such an interesting hybrid that it deserves to have the other parent in my collection as well. So I'm actively looking for that as well, but definitely I think you can tell these guys are related. And wait till I have them both in bloom, then you will definitely see the resemblance side by side. And lastly, we have something different. Now, these two orchids are related, but one of them is not the other one's parent. They're actually the very same hybrid, but a different variety. So both of these are the Aliceara Peggy Ruth Carpenter. This one is the variety Gem. And if this is correct, it means that they both have the same parentage. And looking at the Orchid Roots website, we can see that they are very complex hybrids. So the thing is, the more complex hybrids get, the more you can have variations. With the bronze maiden as well, if you look on the internet, you will find people having the same orchid looking just slightly different. And typically what happens is that people give a cultivar name. So in our instance here, the Peggy Ruth Carpenter gem, even though having the same parentage as the Peggy Ruth Carpenter, it absolutely is not the same. It absolutely does not look the same. And it's all due to genetics. So we have the cultivar name gem. So even though, yes, I can see some resemblance to Miltonias, I definitely can see the influence of the Odontoglossum and all of the other parents. So for this one, having an entire family tree, I don't think it's possible. I don't even know if the other parents are offered for sale, to be fully honest, because some of them I've never seen them. But this is one of those very few cases in my collection where I have the very same hybrid, but one of them is a cultivar and looks totally different, and I find it still fascinating. To be fully honest, it would not be hard to believe if one day it would turn out that this one is actually something else, because they do not look the same. But at the same time, I know that genetics can do some really wild stuff. So for now, I'm just gonna take it as it is. I'm just gonna call this one the Peggy Ruth Carpenter gem because that's how nurseries have it for sale. But I'm just saying now, I would not be surprised if in the future we would discover this is a totally different one and it has nothing to do with the Peggy Ruth Carpenter. Will we? I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see. And that's about it for today. I do have other orchids which are related, but I would like to end this video sooner than 3 days. But if you enjoyed this, I can definitely do more videos with the subject. Let me know in a comment down below. It is something that I'm kind of into this year, as it turns out. And before I let you go, the Invisalign situation. Yay! Finally did it. I was thinking about it for a long time, and some of you might know it's not cheap. So it was definitely an investment, but I'm super excited to start it because I never actually had perfectly aligned teeth, but they weren't bad. I don't have a severe case. It should be like a year, theoretically. That's what they say, but it depends how each person responds. Anyway, they were never perfectly aligned, but it wasn't so bad. So I kind of, didn't really care all too much about it. My upper teeth, which were the most visible, were okay. I have a canine, which is going places. It kind of grew a little bit on top of the others. I don't mind it. My boyfriend finds it cute, but hey, I would not mind it to be perfectly aligned. If he can get a line, that's good with me. But the problem is down. The bottom teeth are not very visible, so I was never super concerned with them. However, when I was 20, I have been told by a doctor that I'm gonna have serious issues if I don't solve the problem. So my lower teeth, they're not perfectly like this. They overlap each other a little bit like this. And one of them is so pushed forward that it's in danger of actually having an exposed root. And that's not fun at all. I was actually told that I'm gonna have like parodontoses in 5 years, which I didn't. The guy wanted to put bracers on me, but I couldn't afford them. So I kind of always hoped that it would not happen until I can actually solve it. And 'tis the time, I do believe. So that's a load off my mind that I'm going to fix him and I'm not going to have to deal with stuff later, which I know I would have had issues. Judging by my genetics, the guy would have gone places as well. I think it would have just popped out of my mouth. So I'm gonna fix that, which is fine. They're gonna look pretty. Hey, that's a bonus. I'm not gonna say no to that. Plus, I'm also gonna fix my overbite, which not something visible, but I knew it was there. And sometimes I get bothered by it. So I'm looking to fix all of these things. Hopefully, it's not gonna take more than a year to solve all of them. We'll see how it goes. The fun part is that my boyfriend got Invisalign as well. He has actually more serious issues than me. He will have to wear them more, but we get to do this together. We get to go through it together. So already stuff are moving, stuff are happening. I can feel tenderness, but I've been through this actually. When I was a kid, I wore some sort of type of bracers for a total number of almost 7 years. I'm seasoned. I don't care. Pain stuff, like, no big deal. I'm okay with that. It means they're moving, so that's good. But I can definitely already feel like stuff are happening. But the downside is probably we're gonna have to deal with the lisp for a year. But hey, I'm gonna have finally healthy teeth, which are not in danger of just popping out of my mouth, which is great. And Maya agrees. So yeah, anyway, that's the story. Hopefully it's not gonna be super bothering. I feel like I already got a lot more adjusted to it as I'm talking. Let me know, is it very obvious? Anyway, so that said, I think it's time to end. Thank you again for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more orchid videos, tutorials, experiments, updates, and other fun orchid subjects. If you wish to support the channel, do consider becoming a member or visit the merch store linked down below in the description. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. It's always nice to stay in touch there as well. And I'll see you all next time. Bye!